This is a Clouds weather alert.
Good Friday afternoon, everybody. Meteorologist Casey Cloud here in the Weather Center with a tornado warning now in play. We did have some severe thunderstorms moving in, and they have really picked up speed quickly here in southwestern Georgia now. In the last 5 minutes or so, the Weather Service in Tallahassee has gone with a tornado warning, a possible tornado developing around Donaldsonville right now. So let's go ahead and get people into shelter here. We have a potentially tornadic situation evolving in southwestern Georgia, so we need folks in shelter. It's not a well-defined signature, but we're getting some strong winds in here. Also toward Colquitt here in Miller County, Damascus, dangerous winds, folks. These are eventually going to be moving in toward Albany, but right now we have parts of Baker, Decatur, Miller, Mitchell, and Seminole counties under a tornado warning, and this goes all the way out to about 3 o'clock here, so we need folks to take their tornado precautions immediately in this area as these storms have absolutely accelerated. I know the timeline for these storms to get into towards southwestern Georgia is looking like about 2:15, and instead they've really picked up speed, so I suspect they're really starting to put down that wind to the surface here, which is problematic. We need folks in shelter, though, especially where we have the tornado warning. I know we've already had some tornado reports out toward Okaloosa County. There was a debris signature here in the Florida Panhandle a little while ago, looking out that way. And then we also had some damage towards southern Alabama earlier on this morning on a storm as well. So we're getting things to really heat up. And our first tornado warning of the day in our market area here does include parts of Baker, Decatur, Miller, Mitchell, and Seminole counties here until 3 o'clock. So we have some radar indicated rotation, maybe a little more well defined on a scan or two before, but around Donaldsonville, this is going to be moving into threat. It's going to be moving closer toward areas around Boynton, El Dorado, and Brinson over the next few minutes. So you need to take those tornado precautions here. If you're in this red area, we have a tornadic situation developing on this Friday afternoon. I know a lot of people are getting distracted, potentially with different things going on, including March Madness, but we need folks to take shelter. We can't worry about other things right now. If you're in toward this area, toward parts of Baker, Decatur, Miller, Mitchell, and Seminole counties, we have a possible tornado develop, and we have winds that are trying to twist here in the atmosphere. So let me go ahead and pop up some more tornado precautions just to kind of remind you guys what we're talking about here. We'll go over to the graphics computer right about now, and you'll get an idea of what you need to do. I know there's a tornado watch in play. We'll break that down again for you in a moment, but a tornado warning in place. So you need to seek shelter inside that sturdy building. Get as many walls between you and the outside as possible, and protecting yourself there from flying debris by putting on a bicycle helmet is something you want to do as well here in this situation. So we have a tornado warning right now for parts of our area. So again, a serious situation starting to evolve here. I know we're on the air here when there's tornado warnings, no matter what, in any of these 62 counties, and we have a tornado warning storm moving through, and then severe thunderstorm warnings will play out by ear. Things really ramping up. Haven't had any damage necessarily in our area reports from that line yet, but we're really starting to see some different things here in the overall setup as this kind of pushes on through here. So we really need people to be very careful. I know we had damage reports out in Alabama. Notice some of the velocities might have been weakening a little bit as the line was heading into Georgia overall, but that might not actually matter because it was moving so quickly there. Really, again, kind of maybe accelerating a little as it moved on into the pictures. So again, watching things. I know the movement right now on this warning is east at about 30 miles an hour, but earlier they were seeing 25, and that kind of gives you an idea a little bit of the forward speed. But overall here, I just have to watch this. This is going to kind of probably slow down here and be a problem even for our area later on in terms of that flash flooding threat. We've already had that start to materialize out toward the Dothan area out there toward those communities. You can see some flash flood warnings in play. But I know right now our biggest concern, the threat of some spins popping up in the Colquitt and Miller County, really getting hammered, things really picking up quickly there. You see around Damascus, I know they've had a bad history with severe weather, but now, again, a tornado warning here in southwestern Georgia. We have some spin, maybe to the northeast of Iron City, but again, anybody in this red box need to go ahead and take their tornado precautions. That includes Bainbridge here, a pretty highly populated area in Decatur County. So again, a tornado warning in play this afternoon. Let's take a look at our upscale growth. We're definitely seeing that here. So Got to be really careful looking at our base velocity mode off the Tallahassee site. Seeing winds of 58 miles an hour in this tornado warning. And I know I've been going between some different radars here. Let me go ahead and pop one up here, our radar scope computer. We're going to go ahead and see what's happening within that, because I want to go to the radar there at Fort Rucker, kind of compare and contrast here so we know exactly what's going on. And if you're watching further to the east, the threat on Stark here today really not going to materialize. It doesn't look like the threat is going to be more underward tomorrow, and there'll be a lower threat here overall. And a lot of things happening. We have the threat here to some degree tomorrow in addition to today's enhanced risk. Then we have another threat next week developing, so things very active. Already had a severe threat earlier this week. We had the threats last week. Things very active here in the Weather Center, as you can tell. So we again have a tornado warning. That red box right now just being issued in the last 10 minutes or so now by the Weather Service in Tallahassee. When you have that red box in play, that's a dangerous situation that could be evolving here. So I'm going to go ahead and go between some of our different radars. We have the Tallahassee radar. We have our Moody Air Force Base radar. We also have, again, the Fort Rucker radar. And this will help us with some of the velocities potentially, and kind of give you an idea of some of the winds that may be happening here at the surface. Still hadn't moved into Albany yet, but we're going to have to start watching. Gonna have to start tracking here, my friends. We got to be really careful with what could be happening over the next little bit. You can get in here. You see our spin on this north of Brinson. It seems maybe some spin setting up in other spots. Let's check to see how this is matching up here. There could be something down there, but you see well defined. And this is a classic signature for damaging winds, folks. When you have it going from no precipitation out here to heavy rain, heavy type of color showing up with the reds and purples, that means you probably have dangerous winds getting down to the surface. And we're going to go ahead and check these on velocity mode right now. Let's see exactly what colors we are getting here. You're seeing 45, 40, 48, 50. I'm hoping they're just under severe, and it might be more of a situation where we're getting the winds just close to that criteria, not really exceeding that. That's one reason we didn't really want to go on quite at the beginning, because even though we had these conditions accelerating in here, it's just kind of a tricky situation overall, because it's going to be a threat that maybe lingers around for hours here, maybe even a threat in the overnight, maybe another threat here tomorrow. It's going to be a threat we're dealing with for a while. As you heard that beep, that's the Mobile office telling us they dropped the tornado warning for Okaloosa County there. We've seen a debris signature there within radar earlier. I tweeted that out at Cloud Casey. But again, just looking here at things, a lot of lightning too. I know there's been some lightning damage off toward the west, so things really active here on this Friday afternoon. I know people wanting to enjoy that weekend here as that's starting to come, but unfortunately we have a very serious situation on our hands in some spots here. I know, again, damage, injuries even reported out toward area there with mobile homes in southern Alabama. So, again, you see this well-defined line. They're not going with necessarily an enhanced tag on this. This is the tornado possible tag, so that's good news. Not necessarily a high confidence in terms of the extreme winds. But we have a situation on our hands here toward Albany. This warning going, severe thunderstorm warning going to 3:30, I believe it is. But this is moving a lot faster than that. Unfortunately, these warnings here are actually going out quite a while, and that movement has accelerated really here in comparison to where the warning times are, to be quite honest, because it's going to be out of this warning here before that, and it is expected to kind of slow on down again. That's what makes things tricky here too. But I mean, we're having a situation where things have kind of sped up on us here, surged ahead per se, and that makes things very serious here in southwestern Georgia. Again, a tornado warning in play. We need you to take those tornado precautions. I don't see a lot of circulation necessarily, but we could still have something down at the surface. Let's take a look at those hydrometeors right now, correlation coefficient, and to see exactly what's going on here. We're not necessarily seeing any type of dropout right now, which is good news. It's just a really, really heavy rain, about as heavy as you can get up toward areas there in Miller County, and this may be an indication here of some small hail even within this area. There may be some small hail occurring in some of these areas. I know there's a hail report that this was entering into Georgia, but it was under severe limits here, so that's good news, quite a bit under severe limits, actually. So that's the good news. I haven't had any damage reports yet that I've seen in the Wardour counties yet. But again, that could change. Once you have damage reports, that means problems have already arisen. So I'm going to take a quick break in the coverage, gather more information. But you need to take shelter in that red box. But even this yellow area, we have a situation that's pretty serious in our hands. Going to gather more details. Be back here in about 2.5 minutes, so stay tuned.
This is a clouds weather alert.
Meteorologist Casey Cloud back here in the Weather Center. We're getting word now that they're dropping the warning. They're dropping the warning there, the tornado warning for Decatur, for Baker, for Miller, Mitchell, and Seminole there in Georgia. We're going to keep watching the situation, but the circulation has weakened here, and we'll go ahead and see another radar mode right now as that warning is just, as you just saw it drop up there, it just dropped up on our other system as well, but we did just get a report in from about 2:18 since we've been on the air here. This occurred, it looks like, in Miller County around Colquitt. 1-inch tree limbs broken, shingles blown off, and that's where we're seeing some of the heaviest of the wind and rain, probably, actually, based on the purple showing up there. That would indicate that potential there. Looking toward, again, Miller County, the community of Colquitt here. Don't want to confuse you guys. I know it gets confusing. We have Colquitt County, but this is in Miller County here. Here where we're looking, folks. So again, just want to make sure you guys know what's going on. Of course, as we look later on down the line, Colquitt County and Moultrie, they'll be getting into some of the worst of this later on. But right now we're in Miller County, around the community of Colquitt. So again, let me go ahead and say what we're talking about here. You can see some of that heavier velocity showing up, correlating well here with the rainfall that's occurring. I know we're close to that bottom of the hour, so we're just going to go through this here, stay past the bottom of the hour with an update here as we're still just kind of getting our coverage going this afternoon. But again, our first damage report in our area has happened since we've been on the air here. It looks like toward areas there in Miller County, the community of Colquitt from 2:18 1-inch tree limbs broken, singles blown off there. So definitely packing a punch. And this accident going to be moving into ward areas downstream. So a new warning will have to come soon. I know this warning goes to 3:30, but this is racing out of the boxes here. And again, that gets you that wind down to the surface at times. That can be problematic here in some of our Georgia counties. So we have Albany, Camilla, Pelham here. We have areas in Grady County, Cairo, of course, Bainbridge. They got kind of lucky for now, it looks like, in terms of that tornado threat. But again, things could ramp up on this line at any point. You see our little shear markers showing up. So we could still have spins that try to reach down to the surface here and become tornadic in nature once again. So situation, we have that local red. We have a risk in play. That's a 10% tornado risk here this afternoon. So we really have to be watching. We really have to be tracking here. Let me go ahead and take off some of our different things and show you what we've been looking at here in the Weather Center in terms of our risk area, really, because we want to reset things here. If you're just kind of joining us this afternoon for the very latest information, there's your enhanced risk there, and then here's your tornado risk in particular, as co-located here with the counties that are under the warnings right now, per se. At least it's technically, I guess it'd be just one severe thunderstorm warning box, but where we did have multiple warnings in play just a moment ago, and we'll probably have another warning coming soon downstream based on the reports that we're getting here into the Weather Center. And then we also have a wind area here that's 30% under to the west. It's becoming more of a flash flooding threat there. I'm talking about in southern Alabama west. But now to the south, we have to watch these storms because Weather Service and Storm Prediction Center, they were talking earlier how this area down here in the Florida Panhandle could actually be a little more untapped, at least for now, before we have some of the other energy factors go away. Maybe in our western zones towards Liberty and Gadsden, this threat could linger into, but probably more of a threat out toward the central Panhandle, I guess you could call it here, toward Mariana maybe, the ward areas around Panama City possibly there. They don't need any more bad weather between Michael, the wildfires, the storms last week, and now, now maybe more coming in, and that's just not even all of it, but you get the idea here. We'll be watching all of that. Of course, they're not in our area technically, but this area in southern Georgia is, and we have some severe winds in the picture here this afternoon that we really need to be cognizant of. We have a dangerous situation on our hands, potentially, with these winds knocking out power. So what I want to do in terms of that here is get a look at some of the power outage numbers here at some point in our coverage. We'll definitely try to do that for you guys for sure. We'll try to pop that up. I know we're getting more reports in now to the Weather Center. So let me go ahead and pop up our overall viewpoint once again. We'll switch computers here. And we're getting reports out of Okaloosa County, not in our area, but we popped it up there on Twitter earlier with the debris signature and circled that for you guys to know, to let you know that is, that there was a threat in that area. There's significant damage to at least 4 residences there on Log Lake Road Hold, actually, with numerous trees down, fire going house to house in the area. It's a rural area with roads blocked there, slowing the movement. So we already had the issues out there with the things coming into play. It looks like I'll kind of try to look at some of our other modes here, the Doppler, and see what we can do in terms of maybe getting you guys a look at some of that from some of the different radars here. We've been kind of going for you for the last little bit, but I know we had a tornado threat out there. We've had a tornado warning in our area issued. I know, just looking here, I'll go to our shear rate axis. Let's go to that. That'll be the best mode, probably. Let's see. Kind of give you guys a look at what we're talking about here. You might be able to see it. Yeah, there's some action there out toward the Okaloosa County area around Holt. It looks like there, close to the interstate, we had a debris signature. Those hydrometeors, they weren't uniform. We had a dropout there near the Interstate 10, so problematic there. Out in these areas here, these red areas indicate where the rotation was tighter. But as we look right now, I might have some false signatures in here, or there may still be rotation in there. Yeah, I think there still is rotation. That's something we'll have to watch for later on. But out ahead of things, we've had stuff surge ahead. You have little spins here showing up, but not necessarily as well defined as what we had in Okaloosa County. That's way out of our area. It's a weird line. We don't generally have a structure like this that just kind of is now going from west to east. But that promotes flash flooding. That really does. Maybe just outside of our area, maybe just inside of our area a little bit. But that's a problem for some areas, folks, as we have that flash flooding danger starting to come into play. As we look here, the tornado watch goes all the way to 7 o'clock here, folks. This, even though in southern Georgia things have really started to head a little bit quicker here than anticipated based on the models, the accent out to the west is still way out there. And in terms of those parameters now, you can see we have plenty of energy here as these temperatures are pretty warm. And then as you see our tornado parameters here, right along that Alabama and Florida state line. So those aren't even really co-located in Georgia yet. So that means something could evolve even out here to the west some, as things still favorable for that tornadic accent. So we have to be cognizant. I know toward the east here, we're not seeing too much, so temperatures are warm. We're at 84 east to Stark here, where we're looking at things, and then we're looking here off toward the west. I mean, again, this is indicative of some nasty weather. When you have purples on the radars for just alone of an area, that's something you don't see that often. And then going from when you're going in there from areas of no rain whatsoever to the purples that rapidly, that indicates stronger winds trying to reach the surface here. Again, that's in southwestern Georgia. We have Newton, Baconton. They could be in the line of fire here over the next little bit as we kind of put this in motion to see exactly where this could be headed. Camilla there, we have to be watching here as well as this is rapidly moving. I know the tornado watch goes to 7 o'clock here, folks, and we're already almost at 2:35. We're not that far away from that boundary. So again, things that could kind of stall out here even or break down on this, but just definitely indicative of that rapid movement that we've seen here compared to what we were looking at earlier on. I know interesting situation for sure. Looking at some of our flash flood warnings here. We're definitely seeing that radar indicated flooding out there. We'll look back over the last 12 hours and you're able to see some areas of southern Alabama picking up 3, 4, probably 5 inches of rain out there. So definitely a problem for these folks. And then as we look here back at our current radar view at 2:35, again, the severe thunderstorm warning, this remains in effect here till 3:30. But again, some of these areas here are going to be getting toward the edge here soon with the storminess, and this is an area here where we have this warning continuing, though part of the area not including our zone, but northeastern Jackson in the Florida Panhandle, and in southwestern Georgia we have central Decatur, Miller, Daugherty, southeastern Randolph, Baker, Calhoun, Seminole, Early, and south central Terrell counties. This threat going here for the next little bit. Again, we have to watch for the power on it, though. We were already getting some reports here earlier on off toward the west, and this accent is something to be watching for. I know as we look ahead in toward the timeline here, going between some different computers, I'll go ahead and see the day 1 risk here, and then let me go ahead and see the day 2 risk. So the day 1 risk here, we're going to pop this up on our DR level 3 computer. You see this kind of cutting off as it gets toward the Swanee River Valley, and then it goes across most of southeast Georgia. But then as we look here toward that day 2 risk, let me go ahead and pop this on up now. You can see we do have a marginal risk because we just got a new warning to 4. So we're going to break that down for you. See, it includes Albany now. But you see our risk for tomorrow. I mean, this is not a situation where you see it out west, you think maybe it'll be through in a few hours, maybe temporarily, but we're just going to have a situation where we have a lull. We're going to have a situation where this is kind of an ongoing threat here for the better part of the next 24 hours or so. So we'll have to be watching. At times there'll be breaks here where maybe for a good bit we won't have anything we need to be on for. Hopefully we get more in the way of lulls here than what some of the models are showing. I know we got lucky out toward Louisiana. We thought we'd have some strong tornadic activity there last night. The models were really ramping that up, but things just didn't quite come together like the models were predicting, so they got really lucky out there toward parts of Louisiana. But let's go ahead and break down this new warning now. This is till 4 o'clock. o'clock for parts of in southern Georgia now, not Florida Baker, but Georgia Baker, Colquitt, Decatur, Doherty, Grady, Lee, Miller, Mitchell, Thomas, Turner, and Worth. So a long fuse warning. They get this all the way out close to where Moultrie here. You see it goes there's Sylvester there, Camilla, Albany. We're really watching you guys in Doherty County there. I mean, something that does again extend into a little bit of Lee County, but these winds are definitely strong. Maybe another one enhancement even just north of Bainbridge or on the north side of town even. You can see here some brighter colors indicative of that. But it says for 60-mile-an-hour wind damage potential and a tornado possible tag in here as well. They're not really indicating the threat for hail too much. So that's good news. But these are heavy downpours, and we're having something pretty nasty occurring here with those purples showing up on the radar. Even if there's not too much hail mixed in, there's probably a little bit of smaller hail in there to track. So dangerous afternoon here. These winds coming on in to these areas here. The movement, let's see what they have on this. They're now going 40, so that wind, they are trying to translate the movement of the storms very fast. So what we're going to do right now in the coverage, though, as I go ahead and list off some of these communities that could be affected: Newton, Albany, Sylvester, Pelham, Putney, Camilla, Moultrie, Baconton, pull in there around Doran as well. Ocklackney, East Albany, the Marine Corps Logistics Base, Turner City, Walker, Terrell, Silly there. If I'm pronouncing that right, if I'm not, I apologize. Funston, Sumner, and Sales City. So what we're going to do right now is wrap the coverage up temporarily. We're on the stream. We're keeping that going, obviously. Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Twitch here. But we're going to take a quick break in the coverage here. If something pops up, we'll be back on really quick. I'm talking about tornado situation. But if not, we'll come back closer to about that 3 o'clock benchmark. But real quick, Albany, we're watching things, and we just got a report in. So let's stay with this for a second. We got a report in Bainbridge now of a gust that's in that severe range. So let's go ahead and talk about what we're seeing though in Doherty County. This is moving in toward the airport here, folks. I'll put our winds on here, and then we'll go down to the south. We might have an update on some of the winds down there, as we just got a report in toward Bainbridge. Right now, only 23 miles an hour in Albany, but we expect these winds to pick up. These winds could be dangerous there in Albany. You almost want to treat this like a tornado situation with these winds. Could have some power outages. Hope you've been turning up your devices like we were just showing on that graphic there. What you want to do under the tornado watch and play. That's what you want to do. It's getting pretty close right at this point. You still have a little more time in Sylvester and down toward Bridgeboro, Ocklackney to get a little more charged on that cell phone here. You may still have a little more time in Albany as well to get charged on it, but getting pretty close there. And then you see Bainbridge, it's not showing up on here yet, but we just got a report in of a gust of 52 knots there. The Bainbridge, Decatur County site there just a little while ago, about 6 minutes ago now. So going to be watching that. I know FSU baseball scheduled to play NC State in Tallahassee on the ACC network. That game right now is still a go. Big game, of course, but the weather could have a role in impacting that. So again, going to continue to get the latest updates. No active tornado warnings right now, but you need to be careful. You need to really be inside and taking these storms seriously. This is not just a pop-up afternoon summertime storm. This is a more organized line that's really become pretty vivid on the Doppler here this afternoon, where it could be capable of producing widespread wind damage. They're verifying now 60-mile-an-hour gusts there at the Bainbridge Airport. Not showing up quite yet in our system, but 60-mile-an-hour gusts there. You may have seen that on our automated account, Cloud_WX on Twitter. That might have popped up there for you here in the last couple of minutes as well. But getting that report in toward Bainbridge. So even on the edge, we said they were getting kind of lucky down there. Now, we preface that with saying downtown Bainbridge is still in a better spot, because this is north side of town really, is where we're getting the wind. And that makes me think these winds actually could be a little bit stronger up here than 60. So, I mean, I know we were talking about wrapping it up for a little bit, but that concerns me, because really you would expect the winds here maybe in some of these purple areas to be a little bit stronger than that, even closer maybe to that 70-mile-an-hour range. So we'll have to be cognizant of that here. I mean, you could also it looks like we have an outflow boundary here actually setting up. That could be the cause of some wind enhancement down there, though. So that's something to watch as well. We'll have to continue to watch for this threat here as it does evolve. We're going to take a break to 3 right now. I know Tifton, eventually Adel, Hahira, going to be getting into some of these stronger winds, it looks like, as this holds together and pushes as fast as it's looking. I know the tornado watch has been extended by the Mobile office here. Their earlier watch has been extended. We actually are seeing a warning outside of a watch right now, which is kind of unusual here. But that watch will probably have to be extended a little bit further east over the next little bit here. Things are definitely setting up interesting. I know this will kind of clear some of that threat, though, from some of those northwestern counties as we get into more cool, stabler air. So that's the good news toward like Quitman County. So stay tuned. We'll keep you up to date. We'll continue to monitor things here in the Weather Center. I'll be back at 3, unless we need to break back in earlier if there's like a tornado warning or something like that. But definitely these winds are howling out there with a gust recently to Ward Bainbridge 60 miles an hour.
This is a clouds weather alert.
Back here in the Weather Center, it is about 3 o'clock here on this Friday. Continuing to watch the weather situation. We have that tornado watch, of course, in play. And you see a new mesoscale discussing coming out from the Storm Prediction Center. They're talking about some different things here. And this threat actually includes about Asta areas. They're saying a few strong and severe wind gusts are expected as the activity continues there east across southern Georgia. And an isolated severe threat also remains there into the Florida Panhandle. It looks like numerous storms. Really, they're extending along multiple gust fronts here from that Florida Panhandle and into southern Georgia, southern Alabama. They become mostly parallel to the winds aloft here. An exception there has been more toward the north-south oriented line moving across southwestern Georgia. And as this complex has recently produced that good 52-mile-an-hour gust we were talking about toward Bainbridge, we're going to have to be watching the northern portions of this particular bow. They're elevated with smaller gust magnitudes measured as a result of being north of the stabilizing outflow boundary here. But while low-level moisture slowly increases, warming temperatures will lead to favorable low-level lapse rates, which may further enhance the gust potential in a narrow corridor across southern Georgia ahead of the convergent outflow appears to contain the greatest risk there for severe gusts over the next few hours. So there's some breaking news from the Storm Prediction Center. They're expecting maybe the severe threat to be the greatest here down toward areas around Adel, Thomasville, Valdosta over the next little bit. So we got to be watching then somewhere in that vicinity for this threat here. As the accent does continue to move along here. This is the red area that the Storm Prediction Center has outlined here for this potential. But right now, some of the worst of the weather moving through Albany here in Dougherty County, a very highly populated area, obviously. You have to see this line down toward Baconton, right through Camilla right now. The latest gust 20 knots is not extreme, but we'll continue to watch the readings that come out of there. You can see how things are kind of sticking out ahead here of the line out toward the west. Again, it's become an area that's going more west to east, which is limiting that severe threat versus the north to south, which in this vicinity here, we have to be watching for a little bit higher severe weather threat. So they're probably talking about pretty much with the Storm Prediction Center outlook and it's a mesoscale discussing that probably going to end up having to have a situation here maybe where another watch has to be issued, another tornado watch maybe toward Red Asta here in some of these counties. Might have to be kind of figured out exactly where they want to include. It might go a little bit bigger because that'd be a pretty small watch to just include that little red area there. But we'll have to just wait and see. They might kind of just want to get some different areas in there to be on the safer side. So again, though, right now some severe weather going through our area. Let's go back on over toward some of our different viewpoints here. This afternoon, I know we're continuing to watch the situation. We're continuing to watch what's happening here. You see the things with this bowing on out a little bit, and that indicates that stronger wind potential here. And this is probably a little bit better look at things with a live motion. As you can see here, maybe getting some 60-mile-an-hour winds around DeWitt right now, Baconton. And I know it's not going to see the best view off of this radar for Albany. As I see hail now recorded to Pennyside north of Stocks there in Lee County. So just over the border from Dougherty into Lee County there. As we continue to look at our different radar scans, I'm going to switch to a different radar mode on this vantage point. We'll go back on over to our broad perspective right here. As we'll have to watch this accent down toward the Panhandle as well. This is a long-term type of threat, really, with the warmer temperatures. Now, you see the core temperatures in the north that are obviously really lower that severe with the threat, but we do have some different things to watch toward the south that are more noteworthy right on the northern edge, though. This is where that hail was just reported there in the last couple of minutes. And that's something to kind of watch, and then you can kind of see how this is going right into ward areas here. And I mean, even on this radar, it's still maybe a little bit south of Albany, the worst, but that's some really strong wind here, folks. As we're looking down potentially in toward areas around Bridgeport next few minutes. Right now, Putney, you see Sale City here as well, and then maybe towards some different areas here further off toward the east, maybe closer toward those areas there in Worth County as well. They have to be monitoring this threat here too. So definitely an active afternoon here. It's just right now in our area, the two severe thunderstorm warnings, we still have the other one to the west because we still have some accent here that kind of is matriculating along, as you see here in toward Seminole County toward Decatur County. We have some areas that are interesting that are still trying to kind of come into the picture, and then even up closer to the north, and then some more action here in the Panhandle, some rotation there in the northern Florida Panhandle as well. So we'll have to continue to watch things here very carefully. We're going to continue to gather more information here back at 3:30, of course, unless something more imminent arises. But could have a new watch, could have a new super watch coming into play. So we're going to keep you advised here of the latest information. We'll be back here as needed before 3:30. Otherwise, we'll see you here at 3:30 on this very busy Friday as I go ahead and kind of leave you guys with an overview of the situation.
This is a clouds weather alert.
Meteorologist Casey Cloud back here at the bottom of the hour giving you the latest information on our severe weather threat on this Friday. A busy day. I know you guys might have evening plans. Some of our area it's going to be okay actually, but other areas where we have this tornado threat, severe weather threat, we have to really be careful because you see what's going on behind. We have this one severe thunderstorm warning in play right now. We might actually see it transition more to a significant weather advisory situation for a shorter period of time, but on our overview computer, you'll be able to see we have a weather scale discussion talking about maybe some type of other watch going into play. We'll see. There's some uncertainty in that because it's already entered into an area without a watch, and they haven't made a decision to actually add a watch here further off toward the east, but we'll just have to continue to monitor the progress of these storms. You see a tornado threat really lingering around here. This threat here all the way to the Big Bend, all the way here toward the Panhandle, so we have to continue to track it and just continue to watch things very carefully. Let me go ahead and switch one over. Going to be here for a while, obviously, in the Weather Center. I think the Moody Radar now give you a better look as they've gone with us a significant weather advisory more and more Moultrie, so this one warning probably going to go away here in just a moment. You see here Moultrie actually getting into some of the watch of this right about now, but no warning in play formally for Moultrie as the winds seemingly have declined in their speeds at this point. You don't see much of velocity even from the Moody side relatively, so that's some good news, but we got some more issues, I know, in out toward the west with some problems from the storm, and if you see only 30-35 miles an hour here, so definitely seeing that declining trend, but we'll continue to watch things very carefully here in the Weather Center. I know we have little areas off toward the east. We'll be watching with some stronger wind possibly trying to develop. You see around Willacoochee and Pearson. We'll have to see maybe some stronger 40-mile-an-hour type winds. They could develop out that way. We'll go ahead and go back off toward the west now here. Look off from Moody's side and see exactly what's going on. You see some more storms still trying to come into the picture here. That's some rotation down toward Jackson County, it looks like. May not be too well defined at this point. No advisory in play, but and it's kind of tricky because there's so many things that can kind of make things more favorable or less favorable for the winds to get down to the surface here today. But we have that heavy rain threat, which is going to be problematic here too. So, and that tornado watch does technically go to 7 o'clock here. That we've seen some of the storms kind of leave that. It's just a patchwork type situation right now where you have to just be kind of mindful of what can happen here in relatively short order. I know looking at this risk area, you kind of see how things are a little disoriented here. And I know off toward the north, the severe threat pretty much going to be winding on down here for the time being toward Albany and some of these areas here like Cuthbert, because we're getting that cool rain temperature down in toward the 60s, so losing those favorable atmospheric conditions generally up that way, but you still see 80s toward the south. Granted, here we're not expecting severe weather towards dark per se, but you see Suwannee County and off toward the north and west, the temperature's warming up, and there is that severe weather threat in the picture here. So we have to continue to be watching here the situation. I know there's even severe threats here in other parts of the country developing with this as well. I'll go ahead and take you to the big picture, take off our temperature so it doesn't get too cluttered. And you see a tornado threat going all the way to parts of southern Illinois, southeast Missouri, southern parts of Indiana. You generally don't have a tornado threat that goes that far to the north like that. Granted, things are a little more stabilized here. In some areas, we could have some redevelopment here in these communities, so I have to continue to watch. But you see here, severe storm up in Missouri right now. I don't normally have to talk about Missouri and our viewing area here at the same time, but that just shows you the odd pattern we're in right now with this setup here on this Friday. I know I do want to go to the power outage map. Now, this is probably going to not cover some of these areas because we're talking about more rural zones. But let's go ahead and go to our Georgia numbers right now. We'll go ahead and go on over to our Georgia mapping and see exactly what we're talking about. We'll show you here that there's 103 customers in Cook County in the dark, but then we've already had the worst of the storm in this Grady County, 181, Miller County, 18. Now, again, these are rural areas, so this is probably underdoing it here. But that's pretty low and lucky, honestly, considering what we've had off toward areas like Okaloosa County, where there's been some tornadic issues arising. And we do have some outages in Florida. Let's see exactly where these are. Actually, some of them I don't think setting up in that area, but you can kind of see here we're looking out toward the Panhandle here. Not even showing too many out there, but it did have a tornado touchdown. At least a few there, though. We'll have to continue to watch. Sometimes you can have power outages without even storminess in play. look at Lake County, or Sumter County, I should say, a little over 1,000 customers in the dark there down towards Central Florida. So again, kind of giving you guys an idea of what's going on down there. But we'll go ahead and come back on camera here momentarily. I do want to say one more outage map, Alabama, because they've had some storminess out that way as well. That can be kind of helpful to show you guys what has been going on in that region. You see more outages there. Haven't got quite as lucky. Geneva, Coffee County, Pike County there, Macon County, Escambia County, Alabama. I mean, again, just looking at some of these, you can kind of get an idea where more outages have been. We've gotten lucky from this vantage point, though. Again, it's probably underestimating things a little. There's more rural Georgia counties, so there might be a few more outages than what our mapping is showing here from PowerOutage.us, just because not everything's tracked like this for every power company. Some power companies, you really don't have that ability to be able to track that data instantaneously still, but we'll go ahead and come back on the camera now. We'll have to keep on watching things, see what the Weather Service tells us here, obviously, and what we see in and of ourselves here within the radar in our different software. As I know, FSU right now, we'll go ahead and pop up the camera there. Florida 511, it's spring break, last day, I guess you could say that. That's winding down, but right now things look pretty calm toward Tallahassee. Big baseball game tonight, though. NC State, Florida State scheduled as of last check is still on. And conditions right now look all right. We'll have to see how things sink on down because the models are going to have a tough time handling this. So you just never know. Things could kind of evolve there later on. As we're now getting an update in the chat session, they're saying here that storm activity is progressing east and northeastward across the West Florida Panhandle, southeast Alabama, and southwestern Georgia. So let me go ahead and kind of see you guys our radar view again as we cut away from that camera, since there's not too much going on in that. I know embedded strong severe storms have resulted in the development of hail and gusty winds that have caused tree limbs to snap and a few shingles to get removed from a residence. In addition, the Weather Service continue to monitor for heavy rainfall that have caused those areas have caused flash flooding for portions of the area, and they're monitoring the development of potentially rotating storms as well as daytime destabilization continues, coupled with adequate severe weather indices. So please note that some of the precipitation activity will be slow to push eastward across the area per radar's trends, and you see that more in Alabama. But even in some of our Georgia counties, we have to watch for that as well. Alabama, we don't cover those counties necessarily, but obviously we do here in Georgia, and then you can see here, I mean, Quitman County already 3 inches in the last 12 hours up that way, kind of giving you guys an idea of what's going on up there. In toward those zones, and then areas down to the south. Moultrie's getting some heavier rain, probably causing some issues there with some flooding, in at least the short term, in toward Colquitt County there. So have to continue to watch for that. I know it's a situation where you have to just kind of watch for trends, because things could calm down for a while, then ramp back up. We're going to come back at 4, so we need to come back on early, and we'll kind of play it by ear, see how we want to do this. If we want to just keep on this stream and do the half-hour cut-ins, if we want to wrap it up for a while and see how things are re-evolve, because things can sometimes kind of stabilize, then we could see issues again with threats starting to materialize again, as they're now updating us. The Jacksonville chat is, and we just gave you the update from the Tallahassee Weather Service meteorologist, and the Jacksonville office just gave us an update saying that they're still watching the squall line progressing eastward across southwestern Georgia and the western counties in south central Georgia, and the Valdosta Radar is sort of southward, moving outflow boundary ahead of the line with more stable air. So that means less of a severe threat chance with that, a threat lower there, but that's spreading southward across the areas there of south central Georgia. And they're already seeing the beginning of a weakening trend for the squall line due to the interaction, and that's hard to forecast, folks. But it's a more stable air mass, and we expect that trend. They expect that trend of the Weather Service to continue as it enters the westernmost counties. So right now, only 30 to 40 mile an hour gusts from weakening line. That's definitely some good news here, and that would make me think that we would not get a tornado watch, despite that mesoscale discussion. They thought maybe we would, but there's so many different little micro scale level type of issues devolving here today, and that can sometimes make it a little bit tough to forecast here. Even in the short term, things can ramp up quickly, ramp down quickly here, so you have to stay weather aware. This is going to be going for a while. We have the threat in the overnight. We have a threat tomorrow here, as we already showed you here in our coverage. I mean, and getting a little closer in here to the east. So we'll be here in the Weather Center monitoring things. I know if you have Friday night plans like towards dark, Jacksonville, you should be pretty good. So that's definitely some good news here. as we're watching things, any type of Friday night plans off toward the first coast and north central Florida, you're good. Other spots it gets a little trickier though. As we see that Storm Prediction Center outlook, you kind of see in the green area and the yellow, that's where you have to worry more about those outdoor plans. And toward the southeast, though, at least for tonight, it looks pretty good in terms of those. We'll have to continue to watch. They'll be back at 4 unless we need to come back on earlier with the latest information if something breaks.
This is a clouds weather alert.
Meteorologist Casey Cloud back here in the Weather Center at the top of the hour, 4 o'clock. We don't have any active warnings, but there's still a tornado watch in effect for some western areas until about 7 o'clock Eastern time tonight. I know there's a thunderstorm warning way out there toward Okaloosa County where they had a tornado touchdown earlier, it looks like, in that vicinity. And up toward the north and west of that, I know we ended up having toward areas that are on Atmore, Alabama. Serious situation evolved there early this morning. Rotation kind of developing there very quickly, and just looking at the report behind the scenes there, we ended up having 2 people apparently critically injured there when mobile homes were impacted. Sometimes it's hard to see things on the radar there, not in our area, but just full reference there. Sometimes it's hard to be able to see those spins within the radar and actually be able to get those warnings out, unfortunately. So just always gotta be listening out there for weather. I know we have had some rotation towards southwest Florida, but this is right now in a more stable environment in terms of that severe weather trying to reach the surface. So there's a lot of lightning here that can still cause damage toward areas there around Seminole County here, south of Donaldsonville especially, north of Chattahoochee. So you're hearing maybe a lot of that thunder there right now. Other areas you see not as much in the way of lightning. Things are really falling apart in some of these regions. But we still got to watch with more action potentially on the way here. And it could get a little bit nasty around Tallahassee even. Hoping that baseball game goes off okay. But it definitely could have an impact there. The weather could on that as we look ahead into toward the timeline. So I know a lot of action going on in terms of things outside. Let's look at that storm down towards southwest Georgia right now, though, if we will. Able to see we do have some wind enhancement around Reynoldsville, but again, I do think the situation is one where it's not necessarily it's going to be reaching the surface. You never know, but we'll have to just keep watching. No significant weather advisory or warning. The signature, the temperatures would suggest that the damage potential is lower right now, but again, as this action gets more into the more favorable temperatures here, then maybe we see an increase in the storminess here, the severity of things, and maybe that tornado potential trying to go back up again here. So just stick with me here. Obviously, we'll keep you informed on all our different platforms. The tornado threat is over a wide area here. You can see that in the yellow, that area here going all the way through most of the Big Bend. So could have another tornado watch later on, or maybe just getting tornado warnings here and there and then lulls for a while. So it's a tricky situation. But unless we get any new information in the next minute or two, I want to go ahead and wrap up the coverage. I preface that with saying, of course, we'll be back here immediately if there's an issue, and we have to watch for that flash flooding potential here as well. Could see some flash flood warnings for some of the Georgia areas here. It just kind of trains on in. Do need to rain some of our area, though. I know other areas like the Woodstock, not as much, but part of our area, believe it or not, actually still has drought-type conditions. So we have to just be aware that they can use some of this rain here, depending on exactly where you're at, where you're located. So just kind of bear that in mind here for sure as we continue to look at all of our different tools here within our toolkit. And I'll go ahead and go back on over right now, just trying to see there's that significant weather advisory, some nasty weather around I-75 in toward that area there. You can see a little marker on that. We're looking higher up, but you kind of get the idea here. We have to just continue to be monitoring that potential here of some stronger weather. And then I know we have a lot of other things on the screen, but again, that risk area for today, it did get trimmed down. You'll see it update here actually, may not quite update on this system, but we did get an enhanced risk removed. This is not updating properly there, but that enhanced risk no longer in effect. And tomorrow, though, slight risk here in play as well. This goes further off toward the east, so something to watch for sure as we continue to watch the progress of different storms here and the overall environment. See how favorable things are. I know we did get a report there. WTXL news anchor reporting damage there to a farmstead roof in Grady County. Metal piece of roof thrown into the trees there toward the Cedar Springs Road area in Cairo. So definitely something that's important to kind of report on there with some of the storminess here this afternoon. You see this risk area, weird area to be covered in this widespread of a fashion. The temperatures are getting much more favorable to the south here, to the north. Things have become stabilized. So definitely interesting to see. I know we just saw a mesoscale discussion pop up right after I took it away from this. They might get a watch here 40% chance of a watch there toward parts of the heartland. So that's something, if you have relatives up there, I actually do, just something that they'll be wanting to watch here for later on as we look ahead toward the evening hour, and maybe some different modes of severe weather possible up there. So definitely interesting to see there in the grand scheme of things, as we have some different type of dynamics in play as we get further up toward the north in this picture, in the weather picture. So again, that flash flooding potential could arise. We could have severe risk from time to time here. And I know that covered area, I didn't want to say this here just to remind you guys that there's a tornado warning, and in some severe thunderstorm warning situations, some longer form situations, of course, will be on. But when there's a tornado warning in any one of these 62 counties, will be on here. Jump on. We're within 5 minutes here of that tornado warning being issued this afternoon, and toward parts of those areas there, out toward Bainbridge, up in toward areas toward the north and toward the west. And we were there to give you the latest information. Haven't had any necessarily tornado damage reports in our area, but still something to be cognizant of. Of course, we're always on the different platforms: Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Twitch. We'll be here as necessary throughout the evening, throughout tomorrow here as well, as that threat's going to kind of linger. The enhanced risk taken away as you have a new warning and play out toward the Panhandle now. So let's talk about this. Not in our area still, but more development maybe is happening as we have this accident here in a more favorable environment. Granted, let's just say the other accident doesn't become severe, and this accident is. I mean, looking here, this is moving east at 30 miles an hour. It would still be probably 2 hours from our viewing area here if you track at that speed. So maybe a couple more hours we'll need to be back on. But we'll go ahead and wrap up the coverage for now. Just stick with me here. As necessary, we'll provide you with the latest information. Other stuff could go severe in between. Maybe some of this accident down here could be in a more favorable environment. You see 75 in Gaston County. So that's something we'll have to watch for there, as it's kind of maybe gets on down, their edges on down a little bit here. Just trying to make sure we don't get any warnings before we go off. The velocities don't look favorable in that area at the present time. Again, that can change rapidly here. They're more favorable in the less favorable environment. Right now, they look more favorable, so that they're not matching up right now, is what I'm saying, and that's good news. But if things start to become problematic, we'll, of course, provide you with the very latest. For now, thanks so much for tuning in. Thanks so much for trusting me here on this Friday. Stay safe out there.